All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to BeerNet Radio. This is our Wednesday Warehouse segment, backed by popular demand. I'm here with Jen Litzkirk, Bianca Bruno, and Jordan Driggers, our beer editors, and myself, Harry Shoemaker. And this is our first kind of time we've been together all year. We've already had one podcast, though, with Bill Schufold of Athletics. So if you haven't caught up on that one, be sure and check it out. It's a pretty good one. And then before that, I did one over the holidays with Nick Modi, which I thought was pretty good. And so since then, we've had our Beer, Wine, and Spirit Summit, which I think was a pretty good success. The content was great, I thought. And then Jordan attended Anheuser-Busch's Samcom meeting. So why don't we start with that, Jordan? First, we've seen your write-ups, which were really good. What was the general mood among distributors in the crowd?
To be honest, I thought it was one of the best distributor meetings I've been to.
Really?
And now, granted, there's a lot to talk about this year between Super Bowl, Winter Olympics, World Cup, America's 250th, and more. So, there's a lot of excitement and opportunity for a lot of people, not just AB, but I don't think anyone can, capitalize on all of those events like AB can. So it was, a full entree of things of, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to be front and center for this. And I think that just got distributors, juiced up. And because there's, Samcom's kind of always a lead up into Super Bowl, and that's kind of, getting everybody rocking. But to add on to Super Bowl with this, and this, it was just, they had the people going. But
They
outside
had the
of
people going. I like that.
They had them going.
But, outside of that, it was just a very focused event, built around this year, unlike any other. But, I think they only talked about 9 brands. For a company as massive as AB to just shine the spotlight on 9 brands, there was a little talk about Beatbox, but that deal's not finalized yet, so they were kind of careful around that. But to, have your whole year plans for distributors and say, okay, we're only going to really focus on these 9 brands, and there was no big swings on a new brand, really no innovation. It was just dialed in. And the marketing, I thought, for the most part, was very, very sharp behind those plans too. The Bud Light, they haven't released that Super Bowl spot, but it gets back to those roots of what they call relatably ridiculous. So, humor first, familiar faces, and they're not letting that brand wither away. There's a significant investment behind that brand this year. The Bud spot, which came out today, was fantastic.
Yeah, I saw it this morning. It's good.
I think that would, probably be around the top of ad meter again this year if I'm taking a bet. And everything they have lined up for Bud afterwards. For its 150th anniversary, it's just, execute. So, and that brand's getting its biggest investment in like a decade. So I don't know if this sharp execution and marketing for Bud and Bud Light will help sales, but I'm confident it won't hurt them, which has been a problem in the past. You know?
Just do no harm. Take the Hippocratic oath.
Yeah.
And they're doing that.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. I mean, I'm glad that that seemed to be a kind of a theme of our summit in general. Everybody's circling the wagons. Nobody's looking for new brands.
Yeah.
People are experimenting with new whole categories, like the aid thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's like, no, we do not need another IPA. No, we do not need a wheat beer. No, it's circle the wagons time and put your resources behind what you got, right?
Right. Yeah. And especially for a year like this where there's so much you can invest in and like put well-known brands front and center. Um, Michelob Ultra, I think that's where things kind of get interesting. I wouldn't like by no means is that brand having an identity crisis, but I do wonder like about its evolution in marketing from here because, um, you know, with it being a number one brand by volume, AB's no stranger to that position, but they've always leaned on humor in that role, And Mick Ultra is never funny until it gets to the Super Bowl spot, and then they do something funny. And you kind of just wonder, like, as this brand gets on bigger stages, or do they feel a need to inject a little humor into it? And sometimes it works, sometimes it seems out of place. But I think that's something I'm wondering about because the same could be said about Modelo too. I think, Modelo ads have never been funny, but you're starting to see some lighter kind of marketing with the recruiter and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see because those are the top brands in beer for the foreseeable future. And they haven't got here by being funny, but will they feel a need to be funny to stay there? Do consumers expect beer commercials to be funny? I don't know, but
that's a great point. I mean, it really is. Like the culture has never been funny. And you mentioned an identity crisis. Even when I was on stage with Brendan Whitworth, I said, well, you've evolved because Mick Ultra just used to be a golfer's beer.
Right.
And he kind of took offense to it. He goes, well, no, it still is a golfer's beer, but it's also this beer and it's this beer. And then, you start widening its funnel.
Yeah. And for them,
it's a trap.
Yeah. For them to do humor, they have to have it with sports too, So they can't do funny like Bud Light does funny. They can't have that relatably ridiculous platform. Like they have to weave a whole bunch of stuff together to be funny. And so I just I'm curious where marketing goes, knowing that it's going to be the biggest chunk of their spend. And yeah, and just how they've, treated that spot leading up to this with always a ton of humor.
I talked to Ricardo Marquez, of McGoldtree yesterday, and you had said that to me, Jordan, and I kind of asked him about that. I said, like, how's the marketing going to evolve as it continues to eye the top position? Again by volume, but not dollars yet, right?
Yeah.
And he said because Bud Light, to your point, is very almost zany, right, in its marketing. And he said, Bud Light and Ultra have very different personalities. With Ultra, we're staying consistent with this idea of being active and social. And then depending on the occasion, we can be, funnier or more emotional. So I think, and he says, like, no distractions are veering away from the DNA of this brand, which is really being active and social. So they apparently seem to be aware of it, but we'll see. Because I do think there is that pull to be like, relevant,
to round it out.
Yeah. Funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, last year they were kind of funny with that Carolyn O'Hara ad. So
yeah, I feel like they do tend to be funny during the Super Bowl. The McUltra ads do tend to be funny during the Super Bowl, but then otherwise they're about active lifestyle fun, or it's only worth it if you enjoy it type sweat equity, literally.
Yeah.
McUltra is the perfect branding for you're not going to offend anybody by drinking a Michelob Ultra. Putting on I'm better than you because I'm athletic, even though I'm 40 pounds overweight and sitting in a dive bar.
It's all a mindset.
It's just mindset. And it's again, Hippocratic oath. Don't fuck that up because it's a perfect, that used to be Bud Light, by the way. Like nobody was offended by, to be the less offensive to anybody. And Mick Ultra is, I'm better than you because it costs a little more, and I'm better than you because clearly I run, 5 miles on a track every morning, even though I don't. But that's what the brand says about me.
So that was like one thing I was curious to see where things evolved. The other is Cutwater. not on its trajectory, because I mean it's just blowing the doors off, but on how it might evolve. AB, the world's largest brewer, and then the industry itself. Because here's a quote from AB's VP of Marketing for Beyond Beer, Steve Wolf. He said of Cutwater, we need to start thinking bigger. Our expectation needs to shift from racks to full pallets on the floor and from single shelves to full cooler doors. So they see a lot more to squeeze out of that brand and intend to seize a lot more. But this is a canned cocktail with restrained access in certain areas of the country. But AB is a top 10 spirit supplier now, and Cutwater is a top 10 spirits brand. So you start to wonder when they might interject themselves in legislation battles, or maybe they might say, you know what? Let's just see how this one plays out without any of our force, or maybe we put force going the other way. So that brand is just on fire, and it doubled last year. They're doubling sales and marketing for it this year. So I see them getting into spirits in a deeper way. So maybe not full strength spirits, but just canned cocktails through Cutwater and Neutral. And I think it will reshape the industry on some of these legislative battles with someone as big as AB having that big of a stake in that realm.
And didn't Zach with Southern say that those are 20%? I mean, spirits RTDs are 20% of the spirits category now. I mean, that's huge and only poised to grow. So that also makes you wonder, like, how much more important is their relationship with Southern potentially going to be, right? Those sort of one-stop, turn it on. Yeah, totally. I think could be the tail wagging the dog a little bit in a couple of years. I don't see, to your point, I don't see a future in 2 to 5 years where these spirits RTDs are not more widespread in C-stores and that sort of thing.
AB's in the spirits business. They're a major player in the spirits business, and I could only think that would make them closer to their natural partner, Southern Glazers.
The first day I sat next to the Southern people in the meeting, and for some of them it was their first Samcom. One leaned over and asked me, "What does Samcom mean?"
That's amazing.
So
what does sales and marketing
sales and marketing
communications?
I think it's communication. It could be commercial though. So
yeah, either way. We love our acronyms in the beer business, folks.
Yeah.
Get used to them. I've been in it for 30 years and I still don't know them all.
But I could tell that they were, pretty excited about all the plans shared. I never sat through a spirits distributor meeting, but
they're not. They're not,
nothing like
they
that.
were surprised. Trust me. Yeah, the beer guys do it. Nobody does it better than the beer guys.
Yeah, there was just a lot of confidence in that room. You could tell there was a lot of star power on stage. They rolled out quite a few people. There was some spectacles. They had they kind of recreated the Bud spot they trotted out a Clydesdale, and then all of a sudden an eagle came and landed on the Clydesdale's back.
Oh my gosh!
Cool.
Yeah,
you're not being funny. This is real. This really happened in America.
This really happened.
Crazy.
God bless America.
And so, like,
you think Heineken does this at their little meeting in Amsterdam? You think they would bring an animal that large on the stage and have an eagle? No,
I can't believe it didn't break the stage.
Yeah,
they had to reinforce.
He runs off
probably.
into the crowd.
Horses.
Yeah, they're like 13 tons.
Yeah, so it was a very very special meeting. I think just from all the opportunity this year, but also how AB is just going balls to the wall. Like, hey, this is our year. Nobody can capitalize on this like we can, and just juicing the crowd up with star power, spectacles, and I think somebody messaged and asked, where was the LA meeting at again? I think they already knew the answer, but it was at the Peacock Theater, and I think he was kind of reading a little metaphor there. So,
because I didn't get it. Is that what you think? Peacocking?
yeah.
That's a far-fetched shade right there.
That is extensive.
Very oblique.
Esoteric shade.
This person is from California.
Yeah.
They know.
They know very well.
Okay.
I will say, and I shouldn't, but as Brendan said on our stage too, they've had like record-breaking Voice of the Wholesaler results this year, right? The last time they said that was in 2023, before the Dylan Mulvaney thing happened.
Oh my God.
Months before the Dylan Mulvaney thing happened. So don't jinx yourselves. All right, hopefully I didn't just
Is that one of your predictions, Jen?
No. I'm just saying, like,
Keep your head on a swivel.
that's right.
Yeah.
Keep your head on the swivel. Hopefully this crazy 30, 40 state emergency is good for beer sales. Hopefully people stocked up, because we know dry January is a little softer than last year. So hopefully it's a...
Hopefully, if we're going to take anything good out of 23 people dying,
Well,
at least we've cleared the shelves.
it wasn't from the alcohol. It was from the ice.
No, I get you. I get what you're
If
saying.
you stayed
Silver
home
linings.
and drank instead of
Yeah.
being an idiot and drink. No, I'm just kidding. That's that's a tragedy. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, going to the grocery store over the weekend, it reminded me of, I was having like COVID flashbacks,
I
seeing
know.
all the empty shelves and this is out of stock, this is out of stock. People like, berating the HEB employees, like,
Aw.
when are trucks coming back? When are trucks coming back? When are you going to have this? So I would expect that there was a little spike.
I had a call this morning, and they said they're in Dallas, and said wholesaler trucks are still grounded today.
Yeah. So that's the other issue is,
Wow.
the deliveries.
Well, I mean, like you said, Jen, if we're going to take a silver lining out of this, if there was an inventory problem or there's old beer in the market, maybe, at least in the Southeast and Texas, we took care of that.
Yeah.
It's gone. It's a good way to start the spring, honestly.
Yeah.
If it's worth 23 people's lives for us to sell a little extra beer,
It's not one or the
It's
other.
totally
It
worth
was
it.
happening anyway. Again, silver linings. I'm not the Machiavellian. You are. I'm the bleeding heart. Okay. What are you drinking there?
it's called Poppy, Poppi.
POPPA. What's the cup? It
Oh,
says
it's
something cool
it's
on
why
it.
it's just a guitar and some music store.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I'd like to welcome to BeerNet Radio Ryan Thompson, co-founder of Canworks, one of the largest digital can printers in the country, with facilities in Austin, San Diego, and I believe Atlanta as well. You all print roughly 200 million cans a year, I believe. And Ryan runs finance and operations for Canworks, which has been expanding and is a great indicator of the way the industry is going. So thank you for coming on, Ryan. It's good to chat with you.
Thank you for having us,
Awesome.
for having me.
Yeah. The collective us, right?
Yes, Canworks.
Nice. Awesome. Well, we had your brother on, last year or 2 years ago, and that was a lot of fun. But let's do a refresher. The latest state of Canworks is, again, a digital aluminum can printing leader in the U.S. Can you kind of give us the spiel on what you guys do, and how did 25 turn out for y'all?
Sure. So our spiel is very straightforward. We are a digital, so we take in silver cans. I should have one sitting with me, but cans that look like this, but are silver and actually a can. And we digitally print directly onto the aluminum. So it's a newish technology. It's been around 5 to 7 years. We got into the business in 2021, launching in Austin. And you're correct. We have a location in Vista, which is a suburb in North San Diego County. And then we launched Atlanta about 2 years ago. So right now we have 7 printers, but we have our eighth and ninth being installed this month. We did write 197 million cans last year. And this year we're looking to do around 250 million cans and doing the same thing. So digitally printing on cans. We also sell ends and pack techs, but that's kind of, we're more or less a one-trick pony from a value-added service.
Nice. And what's your mix like? Like, do you produce mostly beer? I know you guys do some intoxicating hemp. You do some soda. Can you share your mix?
Sure. So we do a wide mix. And so we started off thinking this business would be 100% beer. And right now we're about 30% beer.
Oh, wow.
And so intoxicating hemp, definitely a big part of our business, not one that we started with. And so we've seen, growth of trends that go away. This is the biggest one we've seen, but we launched in Vista when kombucha and hard kombucha became a big deal, especially in San Diego. We were kind of the tail end of the seltzer cider big movement. And hemp has been one where 2 years ago, I don't know if we were doing any, a very small amount. And so it's a decent sized part of our business, but we're pretty, we also do a lot of functional, and in functional, we kind of lump into there everything that's non-alcoholic that might be healthy for you, a little bit of energy, coffee, like you name it, we've done it. And so we're probably one of the ones, I think our competitors too, who do a lot of things. And so we, if there are trends, we'll ride them. And if there are trends that are going away or potentially going away, then we'll look for the next one.
You see that before everybody else sees it, right?
Sometimes, I mean, honestly, like we see what's in our world, and we see what's in, what is brought to Canworks. And so I think that we're probably on the front edge of who sees it. There might be people who are working on formulations and that kind of stuff who see it a little bit before us. But then we also, sometimes it just really hits home when all of a sudden, hey, we just got a ton of orders in hemp-based THC. And so it can kind of pop up fast like that.
When I'd like to, this might be a weird question, but on can design, you've seen it all, right? You've seen it all, and it seems like as I've been in the industry a long time, we went from more colorful, not hard lines, in the kind of the 90s, 2000s, and then with the iPhone, everything became like more black and white and modern looking. I sense this, but maybe I'm wrong. Are we kind of going back to more colorful and more dynamic branding?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know, because I think a lot of that depends on what type of beverage it is. So the way I think about it is beer, I felt like it was becoming more colorful, more crazy, like an arms race to see who could have like the wildest 16-ounce quadruple IPA design that's super memorable. But then, the majority of our customer base is not beer. And so if you have 4 flavors, whether it's a hydration drink or a kombucha or a THC, then generally they're more simple. Like they change colors, but they have the font in the same place. They have the flavor being different. So I think it kind of comes and goes, but that's what I see is the people who are doing like tons of SKUs, lots of limited, time offerings, collaborations, they go kind of crazy. And the people who are doing, more like these are our 4 fruit flavors of whatever, medium the drink is, they go a little bit simple. But there's ones who cut all across it as well. I do see a little bit recently of when people are going for simpler flavors, maybe simpler cans. Like we've seen a lot of like low alcohol, non-alcoholic beers, light alcoholic beer, like an alternative to a Coors Light, something like that I feel like they're trying to channel something like more simpler times beer, which I think there's actually is a simpler times beer.
Right. Nice. Are you seeing, go ahead. Sorry, Harry.
No, I was just said that's interesting. Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting entree because I was curious what you guys are seeing grow the most among your own client base or growing most among your mix. And you kind of said mid-strength beers seems to be picking up, but what is the biggest grower for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question it was hemp-based THC for years. And so we definitely don't have something, that hasn't faded away at all. I would say since, the government shutdown, it hasn't gotten a lot stronger, and it hasn't been something, I would be lying if I say we're like quadrupling down on it right now, because we're not. But we're happy to serve all those customers and hope that things end up in a good place for that industry. I'm confident they will. But I would say that we haven't seen something like on that level. Hydration seems to be a big one, like for health, for a while, we were seeing more like kombuchas and gut health and mushroom probiotic sodas. And, and every time you see a company go public, you see like 4 or 5 no, I don't want to call them copycats or whatever, but you see like a Poppy or Go Public get acquired for hundreds of millions of dollars, and you've seen that whether it's a Ghost or Poppy, whoever, all of a sudden there's a couple things that look very similar. And so haven't seen one that's like really taken off, but I do think the one that I see a lot now is the more like mix of like hydration, creatine, kind of like the workout and hydration world, collagen drinks, that kind of stuff. One that was just pure milk, that kind of stuff that we're seeing more as less like esoteric hippie drinks.
Like milk people are putting milk in an aluminum can.
People are putting milk in an aluminum can. That's one that's hard for us because it has to go through retort pasteurization. But
Okay.
yeah, I think it was literally called like plain milk. And that's like all it said, which we've done plain water too.
Lest I remind everybody that in the year 2000, nobody would conceive of drinking a craft beer out of a can. It
True.
was
Yep.
so anathema to everyone.
True.
And then when it happened real slow, and then it happened all at once, where then everybody moved to cans. I remember Jim Cook at Boston Beer saying on the stage,
Yeah.
I will never, ever, ever put Sam Adams in a can, and you can take it to the bank.
Yeah. No, it's true. There's a lot of disadvantages to bottle, and I came into this world, in 2020. So it was at the tail end of everything shifting towards cans. But I think it's intuitive, like why people have gone to cans. They're cheaper. They don't break. They don't let light in. They're perfectly sealed. And so we don't have to do. No one's ever calling us saying like, "Hey, should I put my drink in a can or a bottle?" Usually they've decided what they want it to go in. They've got their design. It may not be like the final design, but it's pretty close to it because we don't do like ground up design consultation. But usually they've got a pretty good idea of at least what they want. And now they're saying, hey, tell me about the world. Like, how do I actually get these cans and get them to this person who's going to fill them and get them on the store shelves?
I mean, it's funny because there's a emerging category kind of happening right now with this like spiked Gatorade.
Yep.
No one's really figured out what to call it yet, but some players have tried to copy what the rehydration drinks look like in the PET bottle, and then we've had a guest recently that said, "No, cans are the winner. We're going to roll with cans." And so it seems like people are still trying to be innovative with packaging, but they try it and it doesn't really happen the way it wants. And they're like, okay, just give the distributors cans.
Yeah, I think that, and that's not a world that I understand as much of. Like, if you go to a distributor and you have a funky shaped plastic bottle versus a 12-ounce sleek can, what they're going to say, like, what their appetite's going to be of, like, oh, that's interesting, or oh, that's going to be a pain on the butt if it's not going to fit on shelves. But it does seem like cans is it's the path of least resistance for sure. And we do see more and more people, like, because water is one that's all, people are always like, when is water going to cans? You walk in the store, it's all plastic, and then the next 4 things at a C-store will be all cans. Like, why is it just the resealability? If so, like, there's ways to solve that. But I think that sometimes it just takes a critical mass to like one big brand to break out, and then 3 years later, you're like, do you remember when that used to not be in cans?
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about your mix, but on your client makeup, what's the typical size there?
Yeah, it's a good question. We get this question all the time. And so the short answer is like, we don't have one. So we work with, like, you guys had Sierra Nevada on recently, I saw. So Sierra Nevada, I'm just guessing, we probably do, 10% of their individual SKUs, and it's probably 0.2% of their overall volume, because it's the, oh crap, we ran out of cans, which they don't really do, but some big ones do, or the non-alcoholics or stouts or collaborations or charity cans or something like that. So that's the big end of the spectrum, and we've done a little for Coors and Coke and some of the others. And then you've got like the middle end of the spectrum, which is kind of your maybe small regional brewery, where like they're getting some cans in offset, maybe it's 2 of their SKUs or 5 of their SKUs in offset, and we're doing the other, like 10 to 30, whatever that is. And it is very different based on beer, non-beer. And then you've got like the small guys who are coming to us for everything. We do 100% for them. except maybe if they're having like an anniversary party, they like hand sticker their own cans. So we don't really have like, I mean, that's the reason we like it. There's customers that are out of play for us that we're not going to be doing a whole lot for, Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper. But everyone else, there's usually something that we can do, even if it's rather small. And we've had, another question we get is like, do customers graduate from Canworks? I'd love to say there's like a ton of success stories where they no longer need any of our services, but it's pretty rare. Usually a SKU or 2 SKUs may graduate beyond Canworks, but then they're recreating a SKU or 2 SKUs, or we're keeping their remaining 2 to 5 smaller SKUs. Because I think people are also like, the beverage industry, it's a strange economy right now. And I think especially on the beer front, people are starting to realize that, hey, I can get cans in an offset format for roughly half the price, but it's going to take me 9 months to use those. In that time, like, they're taking up a ton of space. We may change our design. We may figure out that we don't need all those cans. And so sometimes it pays to like pay a little more for something up front in the exact quantities that you need.
Yeah.
So do you guys wrap cans?
No, we don't do. I mean, we started out to put wrapped cans out of business and wrapped being stickers or sleeves. Stickers, there's still like there's really small breweries, mainly brands. It's hard because of the co-packing minimums. If you're doing like 800 cans per run, it's tough for digital printing to even work for that. But
it's not environmentally good, and there's a lot of reasons to dislike wrapped cans, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So no, we never have. We sell a little bit of Brights, which they put something on it, but it's not really our business.
Right.
Yeah, I was asking that because I'm curious about perhaps the uptick you saw when the TTB updated their standards of fill for like cider to go into single serves, for spirit RTDs to go into single serves. What kind of reaction you saw from the industry coming to y'all?
Sure. So in any kind of change is honestly usually good for us, especially from a regulatory perspective. So if you take like the hemp-derived THC, that's like, in a sense, the best case for us because it's the Wild West and there's 49 states that offer it, and they all have their own packaging requirements and they're constantly changing. So there, it's very hard to be a brand and say like, I'm going to commit and buy all these trucks of offset cans because they may change 2 words tomorrow, and then we need to change our cans. And so we have seen an influx anytime there's a big regulatory change, as long as it's like fairly near in, that we'll get people who move to us. But the side, like us being in the South, the cider one didn't have like a huge impact because that's like certainly more of a northern drink.
With spirit RTDs?
Yeah. Spirit RTDs, started off really strong for us, and we started in Austin, which I considered Austin kind of like, one of the cradles of spirit RTDs. And so we started strong with them, and then a bunch of them got really big, like Ranch Riders and stuff like that. And we were doing less. And then I feel like there's been, kind of a resurgence here recently. And it, as they change their alcohol levels and their, their packaging requirements and stuff like that, we're continuing to do, I'd say that one's more of like, it's been steady. It hasn't been like boom bust with us.
Yeah. Are you an acquisition target from the bigger guys, right? The soda guys or Ball, because you do occupy such a great space. I mean, your business has come on crazy over the last 5 years, right?
Yeah, I would say we are not. I don't think we're a good acquisition target. I mean, if they want to, feel free. But from big beverage guys, because it's like they do beverage. We're not beverage. We're cans. For someone like Ball, certainly. And if you look at like, the who we're tied with for being the biggest digital printers in North America, be Heartprint, and they were acquired by RDog. It's Ball's probably 3rd largest competitor. Yep. So I think that makes sense because we're both in the can space. But, on the flip side, it would be nice to buy something like a Canworks to, help fill the funnel for offset cans. But they kind of have their cake already because we buy all our cans from Ball and MCC. And so they're already making a bunch of money, arguably more money per can, and they're very simple to make because we just want them silver. So we don't really, in a way, we kind of compete with them, but in a way they actually make money off every can, whether they are printing on it, or they're selling us a silver can and we're printing on it.
Right. And then you have Atlanta, San Diego, Austin. Do you see a lot of difference among those plants, like your cost to operate, trends? I guess you kind of optimize.
Yeah,
I don't.
some. I would say in Austin we saw more RTD. In San Diego we saw more kombucha. They're both, they're both big co-packing hubs. Like I would say Austin and San Diego are very, like we're regional. We're like a regional business, but we also ship a bunch to Minnesota, New York, and Oregon. But those are both, hold on a second. Those are really strong markets for us and have a lot of co-packing. Atlanta is more of like a freight play. Hold on a second. Let me cough this out.
Sure.
Yeah. So from a product mix, we do see a difference. And I think we don't operate in any of the extremes. I think like if we were in the Pacific Northwest, there we would see a big shift. We would see a lot more beer, a lot less co-packing. And when you have less co-packing, you have less of the functionals and all the other, random stuff. Cost of operating, intuitively, it's more expensive in California.
Yeah.
Like we pay people more, we get taxed a little bit more, just everything costs more. Freight costs more. It's harder to go long distances. Cans can be different because we do get a lot of cans from the MCC plant that's in East LA. And so it just kind of depends, but it's not radically different. And we don't charge different prices based on our facility.
I wanted to turn it back to D9 since that's a hot topic in our industry and something we cover a lot. You kind of alluded that business has slowed down a little bit, but I was wondering if you could kind of quantify that.
Well, I would say it may have sounded like that, but what I would say is more like maybe the onboarding of new customers has slowed down. So I would say our business is actually pretty consistent. Like we've talked with people, and like my brother is on the Hip Beverage Alliance board. We've talked with people, and nearly everyone has said like, I think to be in that industry, you've got to be a little bit optimistic. And they said, we're going business as usual, like until we can't. And so I'd say that actually it's been pretty flat overall. But I don't think there's a lot of new brands that are like popping up. We've seen a couple for sure, but maybe they were in the works for a while.
So I think there's you said that the hip beverage guys tend to be optimistic, and you have to be.
It's less the hemp beverage guys in particular. I think to be an entrepreneur, you have to be optimistic and a little crazy.
Right.
And if your whole industry is selling X widgets, and someone's like, "Hey, those might be banned in a year, but they might not be banned in a year," you gotta, if that's all you sell, like it's, you gotta make hay while the sun shines and do your best to make sure that it continues shining.
It's a tough spot,
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
it is a tough spot.
If I knew that my business might be illegal in 8 months, I'd be like, what do you do? So, yeah.
Yeah. And who knows, behind the scenes, maybe they're, developing widgets and other drinks and all kinds of stuff, or think about how they go back to beer. But I feel like it's tough to do, to have like, to be like, we're fully dedicated to this business. And by the way, I'm going to work on these on the side because who knows what's going to happen to this business.
Yeah, I saw, like, for example, Breeze, and I've told this story. Hopefully I haven't told it too many times here. I don't know if you guys do any work for them, but I saw Breeze and HEB, and I thought, oh my gosh, like, they're carrying hemp THC, but it's not. It's the functional end of things, like nootropics, right? And I feel like a lot of those brands may pivot to that if they need to. Are you seeing that?
Come on. Let's be honest with ourselves. Are you going to buy a CBD drink that doesn't get you high?
That's kind of my perspective. In Breeze, we have done a decent amount of work with Breeze, and I'm pretty sure that they started with nootropics and then went the THC route, and so they've continued to offer both. And we have multiple customers who do. But I don't foresee a world where everyone's like, "Oh, we're just going to keep making this drink. We're just going to take out all the THC and put in CBD." I'd love for that to be the case, but I don't necessarily see it.
Yeah. What else? What do you guys see for 26 for your own operation, and any other just kind of thoughts on the industry that drives it?
Yeah, I think that 26 is already shaping up to be very strong for us. We're the busiest. We have the most capacity we've ever had, which is true. Every year I can say that, and it's true again this year. And we're busier than we've ever been as of this point in January. We're working on a couple of giant customer releases that seem to fall out of the sky every year, but some now bigger than we've ever seen. And so, which is one of the beauties of digital, is if someone calls and is like, "Hey, I need 2 million cans in 2 weeks. What can you do?" Then we're like, actually, we're probably the only people who can help you with that if we have capacity. And so I feel like it's going to be a strong year. I've only been in the business for 5 years, and it's been a weird 5 years. So I would be lying if I said, "Here's how it's going to look in September of next year." But I'd say so far, it looks very strong, and not like radically different from last year or the year before. But it does, overall, if you look at the trends, like more and more is going to cans, more and more is going to digital printing from sleeves or stickers. When we started this business, we would call people and say, "Hey, we do digital printing," and they would say, like, "What is that?" Or like, "Oh yeah, I know what that is. It's shrink sleeve." And now, if we call someone, they're like, "Oh yeah, I've heard of it. Like your competitors called me, or I saw it at a show or something." So I think 26 is going to be strong. Like I said, we're adding new printers in Atlanta and Austin to bring us up to 9. I do think we will launch one more location this year. Our goal is to launch a couple of locations over the next 2 or 3 years, and so to just be able to better serve the whole country. And that's, as far as like last year, we launched slims. I don't know any like sizes we'll launch this year. It's just hard for us to like pick a size, and then we can only do it in one place, and then and then we don't get the orders we need, and the changeovers aren't worth it. So we try to stick to core sizes that we can pump out like tons of volume on.
Like no 6, 7, 8 ounces, because that was kind of a trend that we heard at the summit this year.
We do 8-ounce sleeks. Okay. We've got a couple big customers that have been with us a long time, and then it's a 250 ml slim that we're launching more on the wine side, that we'll be doing probably out of our San Diego location. We've already launched it, and then but no, haven't. I mean, we're assuming that it's at this point a slim, a sleek, or a standard can. We can do it, and we're always ears. And if someone has a big enough order to get us going, we're interested in pursuing it. But I don't see us like just launching stubbies with no customer or something.
Yeah.
I just was curious about your perspective on alcohol and what you see, because last year was a rough year for the industry.
Yeah.
But I'm also interested in your perspective because you see all the beverages that people are drinking nowadays. And
yeah.
I feel like there's just people drinking so much, with an energy drink and then a functional drink and then a hydration drink and then your water, what have you.
Yep.
That by the time it's time to unwind, they already have quite a full stomach. So,
and they might have blown their whole budget by then.
Exactly.
Into those $4 drinks. So it's a good question. Honestly, like we have, we don't like focus on, we don't focus on staying up to date on like the trends or what people are predicting about the future as much as people probably would think we would. I mean, our thought is like, look, how many cubic feet of store shelves are there that holds cans? Okay, as long as that's going up or staying the same, we're good. We don't care if it's alcohol or non-alcohol. I mean, I'm a 45-year-old guy. I'm about to have my 3rd kid. Like the alcohol, non-alcohol thing is like, like 5 years ago, I would have laughed at the idea of like taking off a month or 3 months from drinking. And now I'm doing that right now. And like, I'm not 22. It's notable impact. And so I honestly think that trend continues, for better, for worse for the alcohol industry, for better for all the others, whether people are going to, because you do sit down and, back in the day, or people do now, you'd sit down and have like 6 or 8 beers. I don't know if people are sitting down and having like 6 or 8 mushroom probiotic, like soy matcha lattes or something. I doubt as many of those, but I see the trend continuing. I think there's a lot of experimentation. At some point, I feel like there will be some consolidation. But right now, like, I mean, if you can fog a mirror, you can start a beverage brand. Like, I mean, there's literally like AI platforms that you can just type in what you want, and they literally claim they'll like come up with the design, come up with a formulation, find a co-packer, find a can printer, and you're into it. I don't know, probably for $10,000 that you're like, I can afford one pallet of my new beverage. So we'll see, but I don't know what would turn. I've never heard of anything that would point me that says like, yeah, people are going to go back to drinking as much wine as they used to, or liquor, or beer. I think beer, you can like at least drink lighter beer, and maybe you drink more of those beers. But especially like on the wine or liquor front, I think it's just like going to be harder and harder.
I totally agree. I think we're seeing some pretty good trends over the last few weeks in beer, and I think Dry January has something to do with it. People are just like, well,
for sure.
I'm quitting. They get halfway through, they're like, okay, I'm just quitting liquor.
Yeah,
I mean, I do. I do it myself. I know you do it too, and I know Jen kind of went over your bio, but can you tell us? I guess my question is the can printing business better than the beer business?
The can printing business is better than the beer business for sure. Yeah, I mean there's breweries that are growing. We've got a handful of customers every year that are growing like crazy in beer and everything else. We got a handful of customers that go out of business, and then we have a bunch who are plus or minus 10% every year. And so there are breweries that are doing really well. I mean, Treehouse, there's a brewery that is doing a ton. They're the only brewery that has their own digital printer now. You've got non-alcoholics like Barrow, however you pronounce that I saw today, are valued at $100 million. So, but like we started this business. My brother wanted to start a water business in a can. And I was like, man, I am the worst marketer, most like boring creative person. Like, water in a can, like you really need something different. Where I like our approach of just like, sure, we'll make it look however you want, and as long as you come to us with some design, we can work on it. And there's cans I see that I'm like, that's really ugly, I'd never buy that. And cans I see that like, whoa, it's really a cool looking can. We do a lot of those as well.
Interesting. Yeah.
Do you consult with people on their design? Do you ever say maybe you should?
Not really. I mean, we do a little bit for functional reasons. Like, there are certain things at the margins where our printing looks a little better. Like if you're printing on the neck, printing a little lower, or if someone gives us font that's really small, nutritional label, barcode that's tiny, we'll say like, you need to make this a little bit bigger. You might run into problems, with the scanning. We don't do a lot of like calling people's babies ugly, and just like
I would take joy in that.
Yeah, and we have, 5, I think, graphic designers. But there's really just like nothing for us to gain, and it's not like these guys are, they don't know everything. And maybe there's ugly cans out there that they sell tons of.
Well, yeah.
And we don't offer it as a paid service. We've never made a penny off graphic design. So I don't want to say we're lazy and we're looking for the least, the path of least resistance, but also we're doing tons of volume. For every can we probably print 10 other samples that we don't print. And so we're not trying to find ways to have people think like, oh, maybe I should look at this in like 34 different colors.
You don't have to name names, but is there an idea or a category or, a brand that was brought to you that you were kind of scratching your head at, and then next thing you knew, it was, one of the most popular things you were producing?
Let me think. I mean, there's there are some. I mean, there's some drinks, but it's less the design. I would say I've tasted some drinks that I'm like, man, that's just like not my jam. And there's things like monk fruit that I'm just like not into, but definitely some that I'm just like, God, how did we print 600,000 of these cans? Like, maybe there's like some power users that have different palates who are drinking like 100 a day, but it is kind of shocking. And then we have people who usually have more money behind them who are like, hey, I'm launching and I need like 1 million cans. And we're like, man, do you really need 1 million cans? Like, why don't you launch with, 200,000 or something like that? And there's been a couple that have like called their shots and like blew up and, didn't have anything totally differentiated, except for maybe having a little more financial firepower behind them.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for being on BeerNet Radio. Interesting stuff.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate that and love the work you do. And it was very nice to meet you all.
Yeah, likewise. All right, guys, take care. Remember,
Cheers.
we'll be back here next week on BeerNet Radio.
All right, see you guys.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right, see you.